providing a safe and supportive environment. Therapists guide clients through their struggles, offering strategies for coping and healing, ultimately leading to enhanced well being and a more fulfilling life. Hi, I'm Paige, and on today's episode of Chezuba Talks, I have Mandy Jones-Fischer. She is a certified Theraplay practitioner, trainer, and supervisor. She is the executive director at the Theraplay Institute. For the uninitiated, Theraplay is an evidence based dyadic, dyadic meaning involving two units or components, child and family therapy, that has been recognized by the Association of Play Therapy as one of the seminal and historically significant play therapy approaches for children. Welcome to the podcast, Mandy.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Therapy and play. So, I'm assuming that is what therapy is. So, could you just tell us how therapy differs from traditional therapy methods?
Of course. So, their play is it's different from more traditional talk-based therapies that are used for more for adults and for couples. But really, their play is a structured type of play therapy. There are lots of different types of play therapy, and what makes TheraPlay unique is that we are really focusing on the younger functioning of a child and using the strength of the parent-child relationship or parent caregiver or sorry, child caregiver relationship to effectuate change because we know that really one of the primary influences in any of our lives are our caregivers, whoever is raising us in childhood. And
True.
so, if we use the strength of that relationship, we can really help form stronger mental health and relationships that are going to foster wellness for the entirety of our lives.
Right. So, what are the key principles or activities involved? Is it, something to do with toys or certain resources that you need? How do you facilitate attachment and emotional growth?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, Theraplay is based on attachment theory and really examining how caregivers interact with very little babies and thinking about how we can replicate or recreate those experiences when a caregiver and a child didn't have those for any variety of reasons. And so, you don't need many supplies, if any at all, to engage in Theraplay activities because when we think about itty bitty babies, we're not using a lot of stuff to play with babies, right? It's us, it's our face, it's our voice, it's our singing, it's the use of our body. We think about babies who maybe are dysregulated or are not feeling okay, and we'll put them to our bodies and go shh 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 shh. Or we'll sway to regulate them, right? Or when a baby is crying, we go to we pick them up from their crib or from their bassinet, and we look at them and express on our faces our concern or our feels for them. But similarly, while we're changing them, for example, we might do we call raspberries on their belly, where we might go and make something that is playful and silly. Or I'm going to take their little hands and maybe spread their arms apart and go, "How big are you? So big." Um, and so we're going to recreate those types of activities with children, but it might not be that we're going to be taking a 6 or 7 year old's arms and going, "How big are you? So big." But I might take a piece of crepe paper or streamer and measure how long their arms are and be like, "Wow, does this arm match this arm?" Or, oh, if I have a parent say, "Okay, how many kisses is it going to be from your ankle to your knee?" Okay, that's 6 kisses. Let's make sure that the other leg is also 6 kisses long. So we're really using this playfulness that comes from our connection with another person. Is so that's one component of one piece of what Theraplay is. The other thing that's really important about Theraplay is that we are founded on 4 dimensions of connection. Those 4 dimensions being structure, engagement, nurture, and challenge. Structure, what we think about that in the terms of the caregiver child relationship is that as humans, we don't do well when we don't know what's coming next. We, as
Mhm.
adults, if something is thrown onto your work calendar, or your partner says, "Oh, we have dinner plans tonight," and you're like, "Excuse me, I didn't know that we had dinner plans tonight," right? It kind of throws us off. And so babies are no different, but they don't come out of the womb with a calendar or an iPhone that's going to tell them where they have to be and what they have to do next. And so as their caregivers, we create predictability. We create predictability through their day by saying, part of it is for our own sanity as parents of, I need to get you on a sleep schedule. I need to get you on an eating schedule, because that's how we make sense of the world. But our babies do too. And so part of this is creating predictability and structure, and or through structure, helping the child to know that we as the adults have things figured out for them. It creates a lot of anxiety and a lot of uncertainty and a lack of safety for kids when they don't know what's coming next.
Mhm.
When it comes to engagement, engagement is, I'm here and I'm present with you. Our devices so drastically get in the way of true human engagement and connection. But when we're with our children and when we're with our babies, we really want to think about, as I'm holding you, there's nothing else in the world that matters other than you. I see you. I notice you. I see the color of your eyes. I see that you've got these special spots up and down in your arms, which is what we call freckles. We call them special spots. And so engagement is really seeing our children or seeing the person in front of us. Nurture is what we do with exactly what we think of with itty bitty babies, is caring for them, right? Baby cries, I respond. They're hungry, I feed them. I'm going to use my body to put them to sleep. I'm going to help them to feel as though they are the most wonderful, beautiful, precious thing in the world, and that they are deserving of love and deserving of care and comfort. And so for children who didn't get that, again, for any myriad of reasons, we're going to provide that as part of treatment. And the last part, our last dimension of attuned caregiving, is challenge. Challenge being that when I set a task for you, or I set an expectation, it's such that you're going to grow from it. You're going to have to reach for it a little bit, but it's not so hard that you're going to fail at it. And so we're going to really put this in at the level at which a child is functioning, not necessarily at their chronological age. So all of the four dimensions really feed into one another. I have to be able to connect and see the child in front of me, which is engagement, for me to accurately set that level of challenge, or that set that level of expectation. And similarly, for a child to excel within a task I've given them, I need to give very clear structure of exactly how I want them to do something. And so that's where you see challenge and structure going and playing off of one another. So these four dimensions of attuned caregiving are really present in all of the work that we do. And that's something unique that sets Theraplay apart.
Absolutely. It sounds very interesting. Now, you mentioned babies and you mentioned 6 and 7 year olds also. So, what is the age that Theraplay can play a role in therapy?
Yeah. So Theraplay can really be used across the lifespan. There are Theraplay activities and things we can do while a baby is in utero that a birthing parent is able to do to foster attachment while baby is still developing and growing on the inside. And then there are Theraplay activities we can do all the way until the other end of life, working with our senior, our elders in our community, to help them stay connected and help them to stay engaged, because so much of
Oh,
our health and physical and mental health at the end of our lives deteriorates because of a lack of connection and lack of touch. Touch is a very big part of Theraplay, and so that's something else that we can use at the other end of life, especially for those struggling with dementia and aphasia, because Theraplay keeps us here and now.
mhm.
But I will say, while Theraplay can be used across the lifespan, we see it most frequently used from about the ages of 2 or 3 until about 12. But I've certainly used it with teenagers. I'm running a tween group in a couple of weeks. And so while it can be used with everyone, those who come to use it most frequently in our therapy, our therapeutic clinic at the Theraplay Institute in Chicago, of the United States, tends to be about 3 to 12.
3 to 12. Okay, all right. And do people come to you on referrals, or is it that there is a criteria for them to be eligible for this service?
There is not criteria. So any person who's like, I think, or maybe they don't realize it yet, but that maybe the reason they're not functioning so well is because there was some disruption to their ability to connect with others in childhood, or a caregiver sees that their child is struggling with with depression or anxiety or school refusal or selective mutism. We see a lot of children coming to us who have been in foster care system or out of home care, depending on what country you're from. It has a different name, but basically being cared for by someone other than their biological parents. We also see a lot of children who've been adopted, especially from countries where maybe there was orphanage care or there was some level of abuse or neglect. We see a lot of children in those experiences. Recently, coming out of COVID, we've seen far more children coming to us where the parents are getting divorced. And so finding a way to reconfigure the family. Given that the parents are no longer going to be together, but we want to keep kids and their connection with each parents at the front and center, so that way they aren't, there isn't harm to the child by the parents recognizing that we're not meant to be together anymore. And so helping children through that. So really, there's a lot of different ways that Theraplay can be used. Um, but so no, I wouldn't say that there's necessarily criteria. We do conduct an assessment with every family called the MIM, which stands for the Marshak Interaction Method. It is not a parenting assessment. It is purely an assessment to look at how two people play and connect with one another. And so we'll start that as the foundation for every session, or sorry, I should say every course of treatment we'll do with a family. And so that will give us a lot of information about how we're going to progress treatment for that family. On rare occasions, they might come in and say, we think we're struggling and we think we need Theraplay treatment. And so we'll go through the MIM. And sometimes it'll show, you guys are actually rock solid. You're connecting, you're playful, you're doing wonderful. There are some additional skills we can give you to help shore up that relationship. But that doesn't tend to be the case. Very often, families who are coming in are recognizing that there are struggles, and so that will give us the direction of how we're going to take the treatment is from that initial assessment.
Let's take a break to understand what Chezuba is. Everyone at some point ponders on how this beautiful life can be made more meaningful. Maybe you're a leader trying to enhance your employees' experience at your organization. Or you already work for the community and seek volunteers with state-of-the-art skills to strengthen your nonprofit. Whatever your situation, know that you can make a difference. Chezuba began with this very vision, a vision to facilitate every skill and every passion in the world in meeting a social need. Corporate volunteering has several benefits for both businesses and organizations. In parallel, experienced and enthusiastic volunteers join NGO workers, enabling them to serve the community more effectively. Chezuba offers everyone looking to add purpose and meaning to their lives a chance to connect or volunteer virtually with nonprofit organizations from over 100 countries around the world. Visit www.chezuba.net and explore opportunities to find meaning. Chezuba, your platform to do good. And now, back with our guest. That clears some doubt. Very nice. So, Mandy, you are the only organization that certifies Theraplay practitioners, right? So,
That is correct.
right. So then, how do you ensure that there is ongoing training and development, and up to updated information? Do you have programs like that?
We sure do. Yeah. So, while the Theraplay Institute, located in Chicago, is the central organizing body for Theraplay globally, we do have affiliates around the world. So, there are local organizations in, gosh, somewhere around 25 or almost 30 countries that they'll run their local communities of Theraplay practitioners and provide local supports that are culturally sensitive to the children and families that they're serving. Um, but all of our trainers and supervisors go through a very rigorous certification process first to become a certified Theraplay therapist or practitioner. And then we have a rigorous process for those who are going to be training others to become supervisors and trainers. And we have a very, I guess, connected and engaged core group of trainers and supervisors who are constantly engaged with supporting one another, learning from one another. Um, we offer for all of our practitioners globally, we have a Theraplay Association where there's opportunities for networking globally. There are monthly special programs, webinars that folks can engage in. All of our practitioners are encouraged to enter into practicum where they're getting supervision on all of their sessions to ensure that they're doing Theraplay ethically and appropriately. We also offer parenting programs so that way therapists can refer. Um, Parents to additional learning that can be done virtually outside of their weekly sessions. We publish books, we publish articles, we have a monthly newsletter that goes out to our community, letting everyone know about recent developments, things that are happening globally, special projects that are happening globally, or unique opportunities for adapting Theraplay to certain populations. So there's a lot of opportunities for continued growth
Right.
for the Theraplay community to ensure that our work is ethical and working with families and children.
Correct. So you mentioned that a lot of Theraplay is about physical proximity. Um, does technology play any part in your therapy?
Yes and no. So I will say that prior to COVID, all of our Theraplay was done in person. And we know, I think, even from our own personal experiences, not even necessarily therapeutically, but I think we hopefully can universally agree that we connect better in person than we do across a screen. Of course, the screen allows us to connect in ways when in person connection isn't possible. But even connecting over a screen isn't a substitute for in person, like you said, proximity. For me to be able to, we can feel people's energy around us. We can be present. If I'm seeing you're struggling, I can reach out and put a hand on your hand or draw you into a hug if that's appropriate. And so that touch and that proximity is such an essential part of the human condition of what uniquely makes us human. That touch is such an important part of our role that can't be replicated across a screen. However, we in terms of a part of the practice of Theraplay is we record every session. All of our sessions are recorded so that we can see, oh, I thought I did this thing with my face, and then I look on a screen and realize, oh, I did not do that thing I thought with my face, or I thought this happened in the moment, but I recognized in reviewing the video that the child actually did this when I responded to them a certain way. And so it allows us to work with the parents and really explore when a parent or a child does X, Y, or Z, we can respond with A, B, and C. And so those videos are big, and the technology necessary for recording those videos and keeping them safe in a way that they're always confidential is really important. Um, the other way that technology has allowed us to be more accessible is that during COVID, we were able to adapt some of the activities so that way we could facilitate them across the screen, but caregivers and children within the home could play them together and we were facilitating across the screen. It's still not a substitute. It still is not truly best Theraplay practice, but it is an option. Um, and sometimes having something is better than nothing for children and families who are struggling. So that is an option. The other thing that we do regularly, um, part of the Theraplay practice or the modality is to provide parent feedback sessions. So we'll do a number of play sessions with the caregiver and the child together, but then we'll meet with just the caregiver individually to review those videos that I was just talking about and to learn what is happening outside of the session. And so that's an opportunity to meet virtually over a screen with the parents. If, let's say, that's easier for the parents given their work schedule, or I know I've certainly had very late evening sessions after kids are in bed, that's an easier time for the parents to connect with me, over a screen is to have a session at 9, 10 o'clock at night. It's not preferable for any of us, but sometimes that's all the time that very, very busy parents have, is to have that one-on-one time to connect with the therapist to review what's going on in family work. And so that does allow us opportunities in ways that we otherwise wouldn't have were it not for screens. So
Right.
they're a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yes, we can't do away with it, definitely.
No, we can't.
Also, Mandy, now a question arises. You are a nonprofit, so these services that you
That's
offer,
correct.
are they paid, or is there somebody who's funding this and somebody who really needs it is getting it?
Yeah, so each so there's kind of there's different layers. So I'm going to try not to make it too complex, but there are different layers to the work that we do. So the primary thing that their Theraplay Institute does is provide trainings to other mental health professionals. Our mission is that, or the way we see things, is that the more mental health professionals we train in using Theraplay, that's more children and families that we can have a positive effect on. Versus if we only provided services through our clinic in Chicago, there's only so many people that can access us because it's really hard. You're not going to fly from somewhere in India, for example, to Chicago to get weekly therapy sessions. That's just not going to happen. And so by training people around the globe, they can then do this work individually. That part individuals pay for. So, as a mental health professional, I'm going to pay to get my own therapeutic training, or often other not for profits who run clinical services might pay to bring us in to pay for their entire staff to be trained, or there's very often grant money that pays for training for mental health professionals. So, that's one component of our not for profit status, is partnering with other not-for-profits to provide these services. For our clinic, our Chicago-based clinic, we take private insurance. And then we do also offer sliding scale fees for those who are unable to cover their services. We work with schools to provide Theraplay within the classroom. So we do have, so what you and I have been talking about primarily today is our dyadic Theraplay work, but we do have a curriculum called Sunshine Circles, which is taking Theraplay and adapting it to the classroom so that a classroom teacher can provide Theraplay support to um, the entirety of their class, and then also kids then start to learn how to connect with others. So we'll offer grant, or we'll offer support at a reduced fees at times for schools to bring this in, or other countries who might not have additional resources will offer Theraplay training at a drastically reduced rate. So our funding comes from a number of places. We get funding primarily from fee for service, but then we do also take donations, and we are really expanding our efforts to apply for different grants and to secure funding from foundations. Um, the financial landscape has really changed coming out of COVID, and so it's a lot harder to fund all of our operations just through fee for service. And so we're looking to diversify our revenue streams through, like I said, through foundations and grants and donors and volunteer work. We a lot of the work we do is supported by really, really precious, wonderful volunteers that we couldn't do what we do without them.
Absolutely. And do you have any scope for virtual volunteering?
We absolutely do. So a lot of our operations is administrative back end work, right? Of putting things into our database, cleaning up our database. Also, our marketing team is a small but mighty team of two. And so there's so much that they're trying to do to support our efforts globally, but we could really use some additional support with our digital marketing, with our social media accounts. We definitely have social media accounts on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. We used to have, I guess we do still technically have an account on X, but it's not very widely used. We're definitely have a much larger following on Instagram and Facebook. But to have someone consistently helping us post and keep those accounts as up to date and relevant as possible, that would be really helpful. So, yes, if there's someone who has expertise in anything digital, virtual, um, tech, we would love to have that virtual support.
Well, Chizuba is here for you, so feel free to connect with the volunteers there, and I'm sure you'll find somebody there.
Wonderful.
Last
Thank
question
you.
here, Mandy. Let's talk about the International Theraplay Conference that you hold every summer. I think that's a very energizing and interesting 2 days.
Yeah, so we haven't been in a position to hold the conference since 2020. Um, COVID hit us financially very, very hard, and for anyone who has ever put on a conference, it's a big, expensive, labor-intensive undertaking, and so unfortunately, we haven't been in a place to host a conference in 4 years. But when we used to host them every 2 years or every 3 years, you're exactly right. They were really energizing experiences. They brought our community together. They allowed us to learn from one another and to be inspired from one another. And so we really miss those events, and hope that eventually we'll be in a position to afford to put them on again. And so for now, we're having to substitute with monthly virtual activities, monthly networking events, which of course are not the same, but hopefully each month our attendees walk away from those inspired and connecting with other Theraplay professionals from around the globe.
Right. I would assume that that's a very important aspect because as therapists, you must be seeing so many situations which are affecting you also on a personal level.
Absolutely.
So for you to be able to vent it out or, just be with somebody who understands that, absolutely important.
Yes, yes, you're so right. And whether it's in a group atmosphere, like through our, like I said, our monthly networking events, or we have monthly web supervisions where we can watch someone else being supervised. Often we're all having similar struggles. And so seeing how someone else works through a difficult experience with a client can be really transformative for our work. And I think as well, we have monthly diving in sessions where you can meet with a Theraplay supervisor to just have any of your questions answered. um, you're right, that opportunity to connect with other therapists, there's no substitute for that.
Absolutely.
And getting into supervision and getting into the practicum and having a supervisor who is there for you and who will help you to learn and help you to grow and work through that transference that you're talking about, of that our clients have an effect on us as well, is really, really important. And thinking that we can do it alone, we can't, which all comes back to the work we do in Theraplay, is that we,
Yes.
as humans, we need other humans. We need connection. And whether that's on a professional level or a personal level is so, so essential to everything we do and to all of our individual functioning and to our really our mental health.
Mental health, very true. Yes. Well, Mandy, thank you so much for talking to us. I did not know what theraplay was. I knew therapy, but I did not know what theraplay was. And thank you for shining a light on that. And to our audience, I'd like to say, seeking therapy is a step forward toward empowerment. It's the human capacity for change and adaptation. So, talking of that, it's time that people connect with organizations like Theraplay and help and embrace a journey of continuous self discovery and improvement.
I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you so much for having me today. It's been a true honor, and I hope to be able to connect with with your community, whether it's through services or volunteers. And we're so happy to be able to share with others about the work that the Theraplay community is doing. So thank you for allowing us a space to be.
Thanks, Mandy.